Today's show is brought to you by Drift Outfitters at 199 Queen Street East in downtown Toronto, Ontario. Drift Outfitters is packed full of fly fishing gear, tying materials, clothing, hats, bags, and more. Rob and the guys down at the shop have you covered for all your fly fishy needs. Whether you're taking a trip to Northern Ontario or heading on a massive journey to the heart of Africa to fish tigerfish on the Zambezi River, Drift Outfitters has got you. Stop by the shop at 199 Queen Street East or visit them online at driftoutfitters.com to take advantage of their fantastic online store and free shipping on Canadian orders over $100. Hello and welcome to another episode of So Fly. It's mid-January. Doesn't feel that way, though. Up in here in Ontario, we're getting lots of rain, and it's like 12 degrees outside, which is insane. My name is Mitch, and we've got Aldo.
Hello.
We've got Yelma.
Hey, everyone.
And we have a very exciting guest on the line today, somebody that we met a little while back, and he's agreed to come on the show today. We're pretty excited about that. We've got Joseph, who is the editor-in-chief and creator of Tail Magazine and Strung Magazine, two magazines outdoor-focused, and we've actually recently had some work published by you guys in Tail Magazine, so really excited to have you on the show today, Joseph. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming on. We're really excited to talk to you today about your fly fishing life and how you got started, and also just like the magazines and how you got into that world.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you about the unfortunate mishap that led me into publishing shortly. But,
Absolutely, yeah. Whereabouts are you calling in from today? Because we've got you on the line, so we're actually Skyping because we're not in the same place. Whereabouts are you located?
We're based in Miami Beach, small town in southern Florida. Only about 90,000 people, but international destination spot. So for some reason, everyone in the world knows it.
Nice. Amazing. How's the weather down there?
Well, yesterday it was blowing about 35 or 40, which, yeah, no rain, but just really harsh winds. And it's been uncharacteristically cool down here. So we've had days in 70 to 75 degrees, which is unheard of. Jeez. And yeah, it's been actually quite nice, being that I'm originally from Pennsylvania. So
right on.
Getting a true winter for a change. Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Okay, so how about we start with, because you're saying originally from Pennsylvania, now you live in Miami. So you came from Pennsylvania. How did you get into fly fishing? Where did it all begin for you, and when?
Well, my father was from Italy, from a small port city on the west coast near Pisa called Livorno, and he was a fisherman. So from as soon as I could functionally use a rod, he had one in my hand. So I probably started fishing with him, and this is conventional fishing, not fly fishing. From probably about age 4, age 5, on a fairly regular basis. We had a home in South Jersey, so I would fish for, flounder, striped bass, weak fish, and we do a lot of jetty fishing and a lot of fishing in the bay.
Right, so it began on salt water then.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
It started in saltwater.
Right on.
And I had a cousin who would come down. It was my mom's sister's son, and he would come down all the time. And, one day he showed up with this really cool-looking reel that didn't look like anything else I'd ever seen. Yeah. And, he had a fly rod. His pole was longer. He had this really cool reel, and he was actually fishing. We were just chucking bait into the water and standing there, and he was actually working the surf. And he came down seasonally for weak fish and striped bass. So that was my first introduction to it. And at that point, I was probably around 10 or 11. It didn't really take until probably in my 20s where I started buying my own gear and started fishing for brook trout, rainbows, and, all the fish of Pennsylvania in the freshwater as well.
Yeah. Man, you spent some amazing, what an introduction to the sport, first of all, and then getting to fish Pennsylvania as sort of like a warmer to trout. That's pretty awesome. Some nice water there.
Yeah, and what was really nice is I went to medical school in Philadelphia, so we had the Schuylkill, which is not the best fishery in the world, but I did my residency in central Pennsylvania in a small town called York, Pennsylvania. And, 10 minutes from my house there was a cold-fed stream called Cadorus Creek. And there were native brookies there. And, an hour was yellow breeches. And, an hour and 15 was Yellow Creek. So I had some legendary Pennsylvania streams all within reach.
Yeah.
And that was pretty awesome. And at about the same time, I started really coming down to Miami more frequently because I had friends here who were also doing their residency at Mount Sinai. So I would sleep on their sofa and book a charter and go pound the tarpon and then head back to Pennsylvania and fish for brookies. So I had the best of both worlds for a while.
Yeah, that's not a bad setup at all, man. So what was it about fly fishing that got you intrigued to keep going with it? Because you were fishing terminal gear in the beginning, like everybody kind of does. What was it about fly fishing that pulled you in?
Honestly, I would have to say that the challenge of it, and the activeness of the sport. I mean, I've done the deep sea charters, I've done the conventional fishing, and you're really just dropping bait in the water and hoping something hits.
Yeah.
There's very little, stimulation. There's very little excitement. You don't really see what's happening. You're just kind of waiting for it to happen and then reacting to it.
Yeah.
And I think what really pulled me into the freshwater or the saltwater fly fishing is the sight casting. Being from Pennsylvania, we also used to hunt deer, which kind of led a little bit to what happened in our second publication when we brought in the hunting and the upland part.
Yeah.
But, it's, for me, saltwater fly fishing is the fishing equivalent of hunting because you're spotting your prey, and you have to deliver, the fiddle blow, which is the fly, right to the jaws.
Yeah.
And it creates excitement from the minute you see the fish until, the minute you release the fish. It's not just, we caught one, great. You didn't see it. You didn't see the strike. You didn't see anything exciting. You just saw your line bend and you hooked a fish and you're reeling it up, and it's almost no challenge.
Yeah.
And not to say that conventional fishing is not challenging, because it can be.
Yeah.
But for me, the appeal was the hunt and the chase.
Yeah, I think the parallels between the hunt and fly fishing are really strong for sure. I mean, I love that how you talk about when we were just in Texas there, and we recently did that article with you, sent some pictures. It was very much like that. You're hunting those fish, and because it's so sight fishing, right? Especially on those skiffs, and that it's so exciting to see those fish take and that whole moment play out. I mean, it's kind of impossible not to get addicted to it,
Yeah, and it's funny because my wife, who not a big fisherman, she's a photographer. She's also a physician as well, and she didn't understand it until I brought her out, and she caught a tarpon, and she's like, "That was so cool."
Yeah, I can imagine.
And yeah, it almost it's funny because her first tarpon almost jumped into the boat, causing her to kind of dive sideways.
What?
And she's only about 95 pounds, 98 pounds. She's tiny.
Size of the
so
tarpon.
This fish was probably as big as her.
Oh, man.
And jumps up once, and she was amazed, and then it jumped toward her, and she kind of lunged and said, "Here, you do it." And I'm like, "No, stay on the rod, stay on the rod." She eventually landed it. So
man, talk about some
great.
Talk about some high action fishing. Oh my God, actually dodging the fish. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, fortunately, it didn't hit her. It probably would have squished her.
Man, tarpon. Oh my God. So growing up, then, what was your favorite fish to chase? I mean, Pennsylvania is obviously trout and things like that, but what was your favorite? What was your favorite fish to go after?
I was kind of addicted to striped bass, and this is another strong mention. But I being on the Jersey Shore, it's not known for its surfing, but we did get pretty significant waves periodically, especially when a storm was off of Florida moving up the coast. We get some sizable waves.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, walking down to the beach, surfboard in one arm, and fishing gear in the other arm, and just plunking it down on the beach, hitting the jetties and fishing for a while, and then going out, hitting the surf, and then coming back and fishing again. So for me, striped bass, I would have to say, because that was always the elusive fish that you wanted to catch off the beach.
Yeah, it's such a cool fish, man. Striped bass. I'm hoping to catch one in the coming years because they're so cool looking, and that big migration they make too is just like amazing.
Jersey's not well known as far as a destination, but New Jersey has some amazing fishing, especially in Cape May and Brigantine.
Yeah.
That's near Atlantic City. I know you guys are Canadian, so you probably know Atlantic City, which is a big gambling center, but all the adjacent beaches and nearby places really have, saltwater estuaries and shallows in the bay. And I mean, it's just amazing. It's kind of like Florida, but a cooler temp and kind of a different fishery, but the same kind of fishery because there's so much there. And you can actually get the migrating striped bass. And I mean, it was a good place to grow up.
Oh yeah, I can imagine so, especially with all that water to explore. And I guess that was your first kind of, and like you said earlier, it was your first kind of foray into saltwater as well. And now saltwater is a big part of your life, right?
Yeah, it's primarily what I do. I go on one or two trips a year where I still have many friends in Pennsylvania, so we'll plan something and I'll go up, fly into Philadelphia, and then from there, we'll venture somewhere. We'll either go out west or we'll stay local and do a local trip and maybe go. We've done New York, Salmon River, which is very overrated.
Very crowded.
We do at least one or two trips a year. Have you guys fished the Salmon River?
Yep. Yeah, it gets in Pulaski. Yeah, so I fished the fall run once just to check it out, and obviously it was insane. Guys with baseball helmets on because they're throwing weights the size of your fist, and it's like Jesus, like it's just craziness.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like basically a foot of space to squeeze in. It's so crowded. I mean, I can't see how people enjoy it. Sorry, Pulaski.
It's a beautiful area, stretch of water, like really nice, but the crowding at times of the year get really rough, though, for sure.
Yeah, and people, I've noticed over the years. I mean, I've probably fished it for the last decade, a handful of times, and every time I go, it's more crowded, and
really?
People are kind of rude. It's not like other experiences where it's a gentleman's sport. So you go out and you make some room for someone on the creek, but for some reason there, people stake out and they crowd you and, they get a little hostile. You might be on a fish and they'll walk right over you to cast. It's like, come on.
See,
what are you doing?
It's an interesting topic, actually, and it'd be nice to touch on this a bit because, like, of course, it's a overcrowding and just overfishing. I mean, I'm seeing more and more articles or just people posting on Facebook and blogs and things like that about overcrowding on rivers, especially in the U.S., and it's always been a problem, and we have overcrowding here in Southern Ontario as well, but, etiquette and things are always top of mind. You said you've been going to that area for about 10 years, the Pulaski area, fish the salmon?
Yeah, 10 or 12 years.
And over that period of time, like, you've seen, like, a pretty big change in overcrowding, eh? Like, it's really ramping up and not really slowing down?
I've been there probably 6 times in the last 12 years. Yeah. And the first time I went, it wasn't too bad. I mean, we found an area, we walked upstream, we found an area where we could spay cast and we were gone for, for some recreational fishing, not, jostling for space. And it was pretty nice, but, a few years after that, we went up to that same spot, and there were people there. And everywhere we went, there were people. At one point, this was the last trip. I believe it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember exactly. But my buddy Matt and I, we just cut the trip short. I mean, we walked for miles, and we couldn't find one area where we could get in there where there wasn't someone kind of giving us that stink eye because we were invading their space.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a it's a wide open space and it's public. Like, make some room for your fellow angler.
Yeah, I know. I mean, aside from the etiquette, which is a thing, like, it's just like a huge topic. Why do you think we're seeing this kind of resurgence or this growth, this such rapid growth in fly anglers on rivers, especially in places like upstate New York and even Pennsylvania? I'm sure even gets some crowding too. And why is it that we're seeing that?
Yellow breeches used to be, during the week you used to be able to go and have some space, and now even during the week it's pretty crowded. But I think that's kind of a testament to fly fishing itself. I mean, I think the sport is growing, and everyone knows it's a small industry, and they talk about how small it is. And I think the stats from the Outdoor Association said there's like 3.8 million fly anglers in the U.S., and I think most of them used to be just recreational, maybe once or twice a year fly fishermen. And I think people are just doing it more. I think, society is kind of leaning toward work less, enjoy life more. And I think people are just taking more days off. They're just fishing more, and more people are coming into the sport, which is great for us. But not so great for the rivers. And I notice it here. I don't fish. I have a skiff that I keep down at Crandon Marina, and I run my trips out of there. I fish the Upper Keys, Biscayne Bay. I go down as far as Key Largo, even a little south of there.
Yeah.
And I won't go out on a Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
There's just so many recreational boaters and jet skiers out there. It's just mayhem.
Yeah.
But even during the week, I used to not see any boats, and now I'm starting to see boats pretty frequently.
Wow. So do you think we can have this growing recreational fishing industry and have healthy waters? Like, can the two exist? Are you optimistic about that future? And what needs to change,
I know we can. Well, I think more anglers on the water is a good thing for the environment, and I've actually written about this, but we're really the guardians of the water, because when you think about the people that are on the jet skis, they got their plastic water bottles, they got their coolers lashed onto the back with like cans, and do you really think they're hauling all that trash back?
Yeah.
So there's one flat where the recreational boaters down here, they'll anchor up, and they'll crank up some music from one of the boats, and they'll swim. It's like beautiful. It's like white sand, and there's a little boat channel. I think it's in between Sands Key and Ragged. It might be Ragged. I don't know exactly. I mean, I could take you there, but I can't describe it very well.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great fishery. There's always bonefish on that flat.
Right. And
the reason why is because all the debris, like chicken wings and stuff, we call it chicken wing flat, because they leave their food, they throw their food in the water, which is fine because it's organic, it'll dissolve. And that brings the crabs, and then, that brings the bonefish and the permit. So it's actually, they're kind of like chumming for us.
Oh, that's a good thing.
And I guess back to the original question, I think more anglers on the water is good for the environment, because we're the ones who are calling people out. We're the ones who are picking up the trash. We're the ones that these jet skiers might not throw their can, behind them when they see that there's, a bunch of people on a boat, fishing, and they know we're environmental, conservationists. They may think twice before they do something stupid. And if they do, cell phones are rampant. You snap a picture of their Florida registration number on their jet ski, and you say, this guy's throwing stuff in the water. Here's a video, or here's a photo.
Yeah.
And, these people get fined, and it's significant. So
right.
I think it is sustainable, and I think it's actually a good thing, because the more anglers that are out there, the more like-minded people and enlightened people that are out there, rather than these people who just think, the ocean's their, toilet.
Yeah, I know. It's true. And it's about, like you say, it's about inspiring others to act appropriately as well, right? So would you say then, heading into your magazines, is that an inspiration, or is that a driver for the magazines and why you created the magazines?
That's a huge part of it. I actually used to just kayak fish, because the fishery is great down in Florida, and I can't talk much say enough about it. It's not as good as it was 20 years ago, but I don't think anything is. But I used to fish in a kayak, and it looked like one of those trash barges. I don't know if you've ever been to Costa Rica, but they have these trash barges that take trash from the Finger Islands, and they're these long flat boats, and they're just loaded with shit. And that's what my kayak looked like coming back. I mean, I pick up all those styrofoam coolers and stuff floating, and I had more crap on my boat than I ever wanted. But I started doing this, and when it became a regular thing, every time I went out, I'm picking up debris. I'm scooping up trash bags, floating plastic bags and stuff. I said, this is crap. I mean, what's going on? Don't people realize what they're doing? So I started this website called Flyfish Bonehead, and it was an informational site, but it also had like a conservation message. We were plugged in with the BTT, the Bonefish and Tarpon Trust, and got a lot of support from Aaron Adams and his team. And, it was, honestly, looking back at it, almost a decade ago, it was a great idea, but it wasn't executed very well. But it worked. I mean, that's what enabled us to launch Tail Fly Fishing Magazine. That was going to be the draw to get people to the website, to get more information about the fishery and conservation. So that's how it all began. And, Tail was initially a digital publication that was free. Right. So after about two years, we had like 36,000 digital readers, which is unheard of.
That's amazing.
Without really any advertising. So it was pretty cool. And that told me that, there's an audience out there that's looking for this.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, what happened right about the time I started Tail, I think we launched Tail in September of 2012. And then in January of 2013, Fly Fishing in Saltwater, which was the only printed publication for saltwater fly fishing, folded. They basically just merged with one of their other publications, and they were off the map. So now I attribute the growth to, that magazine disappeared. So now all the people who were involved had nothing except Tail. So I think that's why we grew so quickly. It was, fortuitous and kind of serendipitous that I did it right at the time that they folded. Yeah. So it was like a transfer.
Right.
And then we started printing it. We realized that we're never going to be a legit, real magazine until we put it on paper, because paper is permanent and digital can go away in a nanosecond. So we started printing it in 2016, and here we are now with a second publication and, steady growth for the last 3 or 4 years. So it's kind of a cool ride.
That's great. So did Tail preceded Strung then?
Correct. Tail started, like I said, in 2012 digitally and 2016 in print. And we launched the first issue of Strung in December of 2018.
Oh, so fairly recently then.
Yeah. So, Strung just had its 1-year anniversary last month.
Nice.
So
congratulations.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Just a baby.
Yeah. It's great you had that kind of reception like so quickly. I mean, that's awesome to see,
Yeah, it was kind of surprising, and I think it was misleading because I was like, wow, people love what I'm doing. It's like, nah, they don't have another option. It was kind of comical. I was like so pumped, and then I realized, well, if you're starving and the only thing you can eat is a dandelion, you're going to eat that dandelion.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's really cool. What were some of the challenges you faced when starting up, those magazines? Because it's like you kind of just start making stuff, right? And just hope that people pick it up. Like you said, it was all basically word of mouth.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge, I think, was I didn't know a damn thing about publishing. I'd never published anything in my life.
Yeah.
And, it's like, it's like that guy in the field whose friend gets hurt and he's on the phone with EMS and what do I do? I cut where? It was like that kind of situation.
Yeah.
It's like I literally knew nothing about publishing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nothing about the back end of it, the front end of it. I thought all we had to do is pick paper
Yeah.
put some stories together and hand it to a printer, and they take care of everything. But
Yeah.
you know, that's not even scratching the surface of what's involved.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, proof that you can fake it till you make it, I guess.
Yeah, learn along the way. So how did you? So what were you doing then to like kind of figure things out?
What I did was I got myself. It's a long process, and I won't bore you with all the details, but you make a magazine, great. Well, how do you get it out in front of people? Well, you need to distribute it. Okay, how do you do that? Well, you need to get into retail chains. So that's kind of the abbreviated version, but what I did was I hired myself a distribution and circulation manager.
Yeah.
And this was a guy who had a ton of experience. And then I connected with a guy in Delaware who had been in the print industry for forever, for his entire career. I think he was a sales rep for various printers, but he knew everybody in the industry and had a ton of knowledge. And he was a really good guy and really taught me a lot.
Yeah.
So between those two people, I kind of made a leap of faith, and I said, okay, I trust you. Let's do this. So they told me what I needed to do from the creative side, and then a longtime friend of mine, Sean Abernathy, he was doing all the design. He was doing all the the hard work as far as putting the copy together and making it look good, and then getting it ready for the printer. And then I had these other two who were helping me with distribution, and I signed with a Canadian company actually called Distacor.
Nice.
So I signed a contract with them for distribution, and we got the book into Barnes & Noble, Books A Million,
Nice.
and your neck of the woods, Indigo.
Yep. Indigo.
Yeah. And then we also got Bass Pro Shop. No Cabela's, even though Bass Pro Shop owns Cabela's. I don't know why. And then
Weird.
a whole bunch of other specialty stores. And then we also did a fly shop program where we offered the fly shops basically the book at cost, just to get it out there,
Right.
In order to make it visible. And the first issue wasn't that great, sales wise and distribution wise, but we fine tuned it over the last couple of years, and now we're pretty much everywhere, and the sales are up there with the other publications. I mean, Barnes & Noble does a ranking report quarterly, and Tail is consistently in the top 10 of their fishing magazines.
Wow.
So,
Amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice that I got some good help early on. I don't think I could have done it alone. But yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know sometimes.
Absolutely. Kudos to your designer. I mean, editorial is an incredibly hard thing to lay out, and your magazine is beautiful.
Yeah, we just got it up right now. We're looking at past issues and also looking at Strung. Strung looks great.
Yeah, Strung was meant to be, the big brother of Tail, because Tail's a niche publication. It's really focused only on saltwater fly fishing.
Right.
But Strung's a little more diverse, bringing in the hunting, and the mountain sports as well.
Mm.
And the impetus for that was I was so tired of hearing, all the Colorado companies say, we love your magazine, but, saltwater is only about 10% of our
Yeah.
Right.
sales. So I said, all right, well, I'll give them freshwater. So I did the freshwater book. I did the upland stuff, which brings in everything that I'm all about.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
the surfing, the hiking, the camping. So it just brings the outdoors in, because, I mean, you don't just go fishing. You go fishing, camping, hunting. You do all that stuff. When you're outside, you're outside. You want to
Totally.
do it all.
Totally.
So that's what Strung's all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. The content's amazing. How did you go about starting out getting content, and how do you get your content now? I mean, in the early days, was it you doing a lot of like the writing and then just reaching out to people?
Yeah, in the early days, no one really knew who we were, so
Yeah.
no one really gave us any. No one really helped us at all. John Melky was a friend of mine who unfortunately passed away at a very young age. and he and I wrote most of the content, and then we reached out to other people that we knew, through fly fishing, and people were like, yeah, I'll contribute, and they never did, and some did, some didn't. It was always hit and miss, because you know how this goes. It's like, if it's not life or death, then it's not a priority.
Yeah.
So John and I did a lot of it, and then gradually we started getting more and more people. Like I mentioned, Aaron Adams did a really great bonefish prey piece early on, which gave us a lot of credibility. And I tapped some of the guides I know in Florida, some of my friends who are very fishy in Pennsylvania who do fish fresh and salt. So gradually over time, we started getting more contributors, and now now we have national figures. I mean, I think in the upcoming issue we have Ted Williams, we had Aaron Carollo. We're getting some big name people. Tom Rosenbauer has written for Strung.
Awesome.
So I think over the years I've kind of proved myself, if that makes any sense. But
totally.
I think with the fly fishing industry, people come and go yearly, and
Right.
oh, I have a great idea, I have a great this, a great that, and then 6 months later they're not doing it anymore because it didn't take hold.
Yeah.
And I think the time test is what I passed, and so I've been around for 7 years, and I know everyone in the industry by reaching out to them, connecting with them, going to the shows. We've been to IFTD.
Yeah.
We didn't go last year because it was in Colorado, and it was kind of a little difficult for us to get there because we had other trips planned.
Yeah.
But you go there, you meet everyone, and it's a good time. And when you have some FaceTime with people, it makes a big difference. So I think that's how we've grown it over the years.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about your friend John. I mean, it's terribly sad. It's a really special thing when you can create, something with a friend.
Yeah, and I met John on a plane because he was coming back from his honeymoon with his wife Asha, and I was going Miami to Philadelphia. I was making my run back home. I was still living in Pennsylvania back then.
Yeah.
And I was putting a fly rod up into the overhead.
Yeah.
And he's like, was that a Scott? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, which one? And we started talking about the rod, and then we started talking more, and he's an avid fisherman, and he was a lawyer, and then I was a doctor, so we exchanged numbers, and we became like best of friends after that.
That's awesome.
Went on a couple of fishing trips together, several fishing trips together, and he came on board, and really, John was a lot more literate than me, being a lawyer, because doctors just scribble stuff that nobody can read, and so John was kind of like my proofreader and rewriter. So it was a good combo.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then just sheer hard work and hitting the ground. And it's all about credibility, right? Just getting people to believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's also, doing the right thing too, because, there's a strong environmental focus and a strong conservation focus in both publications. The 1 year anniversary cover of Strung actually has a climate change piece from Sebastian Copeland, who's a
Nice.
adventurer / activist.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's not a whole lot of publications that are doing stuff like that, divisive and controversial on the cover.
Totally.
So
they're scared, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're going to piss off half the people.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could potentially chase off half of your audience, but we do what we think is right, and we do what we think is best for the sport and the fisheries, and the planet. And I think people notice that and they respect it. So that's kind of a cool thing.
I mean, I think it's an awesome thing. I think that, like I said earlier, hearing and reading all those articles about the doomsday of fly angling in our rivers, more people showing up, killing everything. But I think publications like yours, like Tail and Strung, where you can lay out and have opinions about, no, more people on the rivers means, if we just have the right attitudes, it can actually be hugely beneficial. So I think it's awesome that you're doing this, and the industry's growing, and people are sort of, being receptive to these kinds of messages.
So we hope they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good point too. Kind of. I think we've realized over the past. I mean, we've been doing this since 2016, and ish, and we've noticed in the past 2 years where we've been connecting with the community and going out to, like local, fly shop meetings or little community events or even hosting community events. It's always nice to get in front of people.
Yeah.
Instead of like you said, like it kind of like breaks down a barrier there. As it pulls people from obscurity in front of you, and you can actually bounce ideas off them, which is great.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the more awareness we have, because I mentioned my father was an immigrant from Italy. That man ate everything he pulled out of the water.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if it was like an old boot; he would fillet it somehow and eat it.
Awesome.
But I didn't learn conservation and ecology and life cycle. I didn't learn any of that stuff from him.
Mm-hmm.
It came from my cousin, who was the fly fisherman. It was he understood the migrations and that sort of thing. My dad was just chucking bait in the water, and catching food.
Yeah.
And I think there's the more fly anglers we have that understand the ecology, because if you can't fly fish if you don't understand the ecosystem.
Yep.
Because you can't create the mimics that you tie on the end of your tippet and throw it out there. So I think fly fishing in general is very conducive to conservationism, because you have to know stuff, and you have to be enlightened, at least to a certain degree, about ecosystems and sustenance and that sort of thing. Otherwise, it's you're completely ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. I mean, it's a more holistic approach to fishing, right? Fly fishing, to your point.
Absolutely.
So where do you see Tail and Strong going into the future? Like, what are your goals and ambitions and hopes for those magazines?
It's one of those things where, I love being a doctor, but it's a really hard job. And I'm an ER doctor, emergency medicine.
Oh, wow.
And, it's a grind. So you go in and, you're seeing death, and you're seeing people at their worst all the time, and it's really hard on you. So honestly, my goal is to make these successful enough to where I can, kind of pull away from medicine a little bit, still do it, but not have to do it as much as I do.
Yep.
And also, I'd like to be able to do, my ideal situation is to be able to have both of these publications do something relevant for, not just be a mouthpiece or a media outlet for conservation, anglers and hunters, but actually do something. If there's enough revenue that comes in to buy a chunk of land or buy a section of river, or do something and protect it.
Yeah.
That's my idealistic kind of goal. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, because let's face it, these publications are never going to be National Geographic or People magazine. They're never going to be that big because the audience isn't there. But I see them growing, and I see them getting better. If you look at the issues we did last year versus the issues we did this year, 2018, 2019, it's exponential growth, exponential improvement in editorial content design. And I mean, for me, it's a personal goal to just keep pushing myself to say, how great can I make this thing?
Yeah, yeah.
For George, my managing editor, he wants to squash all the competition, but not in a bad way. He just wants to be the best magazine out there.
Totally.
And, Ryan Sparks has been really involved. He's written for every major publication out there. I think he wrote the entire issue of American Angler a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Ryan's been really involved in Strung, and I think he's going to be moving into a more prominent role in 2020.
Okay, rad. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I really hope that the magazines continue to grow, because they're awesome publications. And it's cool. I mean, like you say, year after you find ways to improve and get better. So it's like the magazine's constantly getting better. So for people that subscribe or read, it's like, it's just going to get better, So it's like you kind of have, as a consumer, you have that promise.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a little bit of industry knowledge.
Yeah.
I don't know how much research you guys have done into print versus digital, but I remember 3 years ago, I was talking to Ted Kleiner at one of the IF TV shows. He's the director of marketing for the Farbank Group for Sage Reddington Rio.
Right.
And Tag's a great guy, and he's an honest guy, and I really enjoy my conversations with him. So we were talking about digital, and he said, our goal is to just be strong in digital. He's like, the print market is not what it used to be, and we just don't have the resources to print advertising. Mm-hmm. My response to him was, let's revisit this in a couple of years, because he's just basing it on what he knows about their sales figures, one company. What he didn't know that digital is kind of fleeting, because it's so saturated, because anyone, my neighbor could start a magazine right now with the ease of the software. Yeah. So there's all these digital publications out there. There's all this, like, I call it the digital forest, because you're just rooting through all this stuff. And, a month later, you might go to the same website, and 50% of the information that was there is gone. So it's not permanent, it's saturated, mm-hmm. and it's not high quality. People can if you read stuff online, there's typos. Yeah. There's poor grammar. None of it is really edited well. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, it's the difference between going to a steakhouse and going to a fast food drive-through. Yeah. That's the way I look at it, because digital is your fast food drive-through, but people don't want that. No. People, they want a nice fine steak. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yep. 100%. And the numbers bear this. So after that conversation with Tag, we had a conversation recently right before the holidays, and he's like, I gotta say, print's not dead like we thought. Mm-hmm. Print's actually pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. And the numbers bear that, because the industry numbers show that print media is very desirable, and it's growing. There are over 200 launches a month in the United States, and only about 10% of them make it. Yeah. But there's still 20 new magazines a month. Yeah, the demand is that still make it. Yeah. Yeah. And millennials are the group that are buying them. They don't mm-hmm. mind spending $12 or $15 on a magazine. Yeah. Which was why we went with what we did with Strong. We produced the highest quality, big layout, large format magazine that we could do, mm-hmm. and we gave them the most quality we could, and they're responding. Mm-hmm.
It's so ironic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. Like, I mean, we work in advertising, and we totally get this, because it's sort of facing the similar things with digital, the saturation of it. I think what people thought when the internet came out and anybody could publish anything or make anything was accessibility is the most important thing. If people can get to your content, then you'll be successful. But that's not the case. Like, people are willing to pay for a premium product because it's a better product. That's what they want to spend their money on, right?
Exactly.
So it makes
and that's why. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it makes a ton of sense with podcasts too, because that's exactly what we see. There's so many podcasts out there because anybody can do it. So it's just a matter of sticking it out and trying to be the best you can be and making it better as you go, and just crossing your fingers in the digital world. It's such a weird space.
It really is, and it changes. It's kind of like you never know what you're going to get, because one little change, one little update from Apple throws everything off. And there's always technologies that come out. I mean, all these filters came out for Photoshop, and they became readily available, and all of a sudden everybody was posting these edited, like dramatic photos on Facebook, and it just kind of cheapens everything. When everybody's doing the same thing, it kind of cheapens it. So that's why we have Michael Thomas, who's the designer. He's the art director for KLN Strong, mm-hmm. and the guy's got more talent in his little pinky than my entire team has as far as design. I mean, the guy's incredible.
Yeah, we've noticed.
And so I kind of give Michael. We have a meeting before we put an issue together. So we have our sequence. We have everything blocked out as far as how many pages this article gets, and the allotment, how many advertisers we have. So we hash all that out. We make our roadmap, and then we have a group meeting, and the group meeting is pretty much, all right, Mike, take it away. and we just let him go. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy, he gets a feel for everything. He reads the articles, and he really gets to the essence of it.
That's awesome.
And then he pictorially lays it out.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it makes it read a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And George agrees. George, the managing editor of Kale, I mean, he said that, you know, even bad articles, sometimes not bad, but not as good articles, read better when they're laid out nicely.
Yeah,
And
makes sense.
And Mike's doing a great job.
Absolutely. I think people forget art directors tell their own story, have to tell a story based on how they lay things out visually. It's not just the words, it's just everything from page to page, one to one, you know, visual hierarchy.
How it flows.
Yeah, it's all of that.
Yeah, and when it works, it really works. And I've noticed, I mean, Sean Abernathy did a stand-up job working with Tail, and, you know, he kind of stepped away, and, you know, I thought it was a big loss personally, because, you know, Sean was great, and, you know, I was actually worried, and then Michael stepped in and you know, filled in the role, and I was like, wow. You know, this is, you know, no offense, Sean, but this is a whole nother level of design.
Right. The talent that exists out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. I think it's an important point that you bring up, you know, that like when content became more easy for anyone to make, authenticity and honesty in what we produce is that much more important, right?
Absolutely.
It's got to be real. So we do a segment in the show every single show with the same 5 questions for our guests, and they're called Mitchie's Fishies 5, and that's pretty obviously because my name's Mitchie, and they're fishy questions, and there's 5 of them. So I'd love to ask you these 5 questions now, and
Sure.
yeah, they're not like, you know, take your time answering them. They're just 5 more questions, but really just broader fishing questions. So the first one is, what is your favorite fish and why? We kind of touched on this earlier, but maybe it's changed now. I'm not sure.
Well, you know, striped bass are great, and I love striped bass, and that's what I grew up fishing. But my favorite fish now, honestly, is permit.
Permit, nice.
Yeah, permit we have them here. They're in my fishery, and when I go out, I mean, I'll go past the school bonefish heading to a known permit spot. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of stupid. I should probably cast them because they're probably in the 5 to 8 pound range.
Yeah.
But yeah, permit. I don't know what it is about permit. It's like that girl in high school that you know you're infatuated with, and you know she's just elusive, and you know she's totally aloof, but you keep chasing her.
Yeah.
And that's what a permit is for me. I don't get it. My wife gives me such a hard time about it. She's like, "Do you know how much money you've spent flying around the world fishing for permit?" And I said, "Yep, and I'm going to keep doing it."
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've heard that about permit, you know. They're just such an incredible fish.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm actually heading to Turnip Flats at the end of the month, and
nice.
I'm going to do 3 days of permit fishing, and I got a solo skiff, just me, so I get all the shots. It's kind of my I need a break trip.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's going to be sweet.
It's your leave me alone trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't be bringing my phone, needless to say.
Yeah. Okay, so number 2 is, and maybe this is what you just said, but if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why would you go there? Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and let's assume it's like the best time to go to that place.
Okay, and could it be a place I've already been to?
Yep, totally.
Okay, so I fished the Maldives about 8 years ago.
Really?
And the Maldives are incredible.
Yeah.
I would go back there mainly because it's almost untapped. There are so many islands in this archipelago, and you know there's places you can go where people haven't even gone yet. You know, they're unmanned islands, and there's places where there's no resorts. It's just incredible. Everywhere I went, you know, the minute I jumped into the water off the dive boat,
Yeah.
it was like something I've never seen before. I mean, the reef is just incredible, and it's teeming with life.
Oh, man.
So I would go there because I had no guide. You know, they basically troll Rapala lures there.
Right.
They know nothing about fly fishing.
Right.
So without any assistance, I managed to fish and catch fish every day there because they're just everywhere. I mean, there's GT, there's bonefish, there's all kinds of other trevally, golden trevally and blue trevally.
Amazing.
So it's just an amazing fishery, and I would love to explore it more.
Yeah, man, sounds like paradise. Jeez.
It's on my bucket list. I never thought of it to go fishing, but it's definitely a honeymoon destination for me. But I'm cheesy, so.
A honeymoon destination. Might want to get a girlfriend first.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 3 then. It is, what is your best fishing memory? Best fishing memory.
Best fishing memory. God, there's so many.
Yeah.
Man, that's a tough one. And you sent me that question. You sent me your Fishy 5 via email, and I thought about it. And I was ready, and now I'm not ready. But
It's all good.
I would have to say one of the best trips ever was we went out to Cabo. It was John Melfi, and my wife came along.
Yeah.
And my wife doesn't go on a lot of fishing trips, so all the trips with her are pretty memorable.
Yeah.
But this one was pretty special because I had, my best friend and my best friend. I had my wife and John there, and we hooked up on a striped marlin after struggling for 3 days to catch a striped marlin. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it was an amazing fish too. It wasn't a little guy. It was over 150 pounds. And
Okay.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So, but that trip was just it was kind of a magical trip. I mean, everywhere we went, it's like, okay, we're going to try for some yellowfin today. I mean, the tuna were just jumping out of the water. I mean,
man.
there were bottlenose dolphin, and they were chasing the boat. So everything that could have been picturesque and beautiful, and everything you think about when you go on one of these trips that you want to see, we saw.
Yeah.
And that trip was just super special.
Oh man.
And we caught a shitload of fish, which was great.
That's so good. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Good
I mean, we got
people.
into mahi that were about 5 feet long.
Jeez. Oh
So,
my God.
I know, it was pretty incredible. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better trip. Good people, good food, good fish. It was kind of the perfect trip.
Oh man. Sounds amazing. Yeah. Those are the trips you live for, the ones you look back on forever and just
remember that time?
Yeah. So cool.
On the way back in, when we were coming back to the marina after the marlin,
Yeah.
They're not sea otters. I guess they're seals.
Okay.
But jumped up on the back of the boat, on the
What?
charter boat. We were hand feeding them. Yeah,
What?
I'll send you guys pictures
That's
if
so
you want.
fun.
Oh,
yeah, please do. Yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
That's
yeah, you know how
awesome.
we were on a Beltram, and you know how they have the step on the back.
Yeah.
So he jumped up on the step with his flippers and head over the back of the boat, and we were just feeding them the bait that we were using to tease them in. It was
That's so
great.
cool. That is so cool. Oh my God.
The dogs of the
So cool.
ocean.
That's awesome.
That's what they were, man.
Yeah.
So number 4, Mitchie's Fishies 5 is, why do you fly fish? Why do you fly fish?
I think it's for the challenge of it.
Yeah.
I think I touched on this earlier, but anybody can put a shrimp on a hook and throw it out there.
Yeah.
Something will eat it, and I think the fly fishing it's challenging. You don't always make the perfect cast. You don't always have the ideal alignment, and the fish don't always cooperate. They might be moving one direction, and this is one of the things I love about permit. Totally changed direction for no reason. It's like, what just happened? They were coming toward us, now they're going away.
Wow.
And I think I like the fact that it's unpredictable and it's hard, and you have to be on your game. You can't throw a shitty cast out there and expect to catch 150 pound tarpon.
Yeah.
You have to do everything right. The stars have to align, and I think it's that moment that keeps me coming back. It's like, that time when you throw that 90-foot cast and, you put it right on the nose and you get to eat. It's like,
Yeah,
you're going to tell your kid that story, for 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a memorable moment for sure. Absolutely, everything paying
I think,
off.
Yeah, I think it's the culmination of, after you practice your cast, you line everything up, you get your boat ready or jump on a skiff, whichever, and you get out there and you're successful. I think that's like the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Everything you've worked for comes to fruition.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I do it.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I love that feeling. Yeah. So number 5 of the Mitchie's Fishies 5, what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be?
I'm excited for this answer.
Well, my initial response is I'm a toad, but
nice.
Just because it sounds good.
Yeah.
But I think I would say I'm a clouser.
Yeah. Nice.
And the reason why I would say clouser is because it's versatile, and you can catch anything with a clouser.
Yeah.
And I've somehow figured out a way to go to art school and medical school and launch a publishing company. And, I think being flexible, and, agile, for lack of a better word, is probably why I pick clouser.
That makes a ton of sense to me. I mean, yeah, like you've done a ton of stuff in your life and you keep doing it. And yeah, clouser minnow, I think that's probably what I would pick after talking to you today for you. Absolutely.
So cool.
Well, Joseph, thank you so much for coming on the show today, man. Like that was some wicked conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks for having me.
Definitely
I appreciate it.
First publisher we've had on the show. And also thanks for putting us in your magazine.
Yeah. Thank you so much, honestly.
Well, honestly, guys, your photos and your write-up was great, and I hope to see more of it coming our way. I think we have your Texas piece lined up as well for Tail.
Yeah, which will be great.
I think you guys ought to come down to Florida, and I'll show you my fishery.
Sounds awesome.
I mean, sounds good to us. Like I try to get to. I've got a friend in Isla Morada, and I go down there. I've been down there 2 or 3 times, but yeah, would be love to fish with you down in Miami.
Be amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, just to give you some perspective, we can be in Isla Morada in about an hour and a half by boat. So,
oh, wow,
crazy!
It's amazing.
From where I launch, Key Largo's about 48 minutes away, just jet straight south.
Jesus.
And so if you guys want to hit the fishery, we can pretty much fish from Isla Morada on up. You can even go up to the Everglades if you want. So
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, we'd love that.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, we'll definitely give you an email after this. Yes, we're coming tomorrow.
We're looking outside at like a torrential downpour, which is strange for January. This should be snow, so we're like, Miami sounds pretty good.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, doors open, guys. So
awesome.
You let me know.
Is there anything you want to leave with our listeners? Any upcoming things for Taylor Strung you want to just say?
Maybe where they can find it?
For the listeners that may be hearing this that do not subscribe, we have a special trial offer that's going on for Tail and Strung. You can get half a year for $10. So you get 3 issues of Tail or 3 issues of Strung for 10. Yeah, and we figure once we get people to flip through the pages, they're going to love it and they're going to subscribe. So we're doing that all year. And also, if you're fishy and you have some good content, you have a good story, send it our way because we're always looking for content. We don't need nationally known writers. Our magazine's always been for the people, by the people. So if you have good stuff, send it in.
Awesome. That's wicked. Well, thank you so much, Joseph, for coming on the show today. It was amazing. It was super fun. And, just can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you, guys. And I hope you make it through the weekend and don't get too wet up there.
Thanks.
We'll try our best.
All right. Well, cheers. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Cool.
So that was Dr. Joseph Ballarini.
Yeah.
Editor-in-chief of Tail and Strung, founder of Tail and Strung.
Yeah.
Imagine being a doctor and also starting 2 magazines.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like I like what he's saying, where he wants to take the magazine to make it more full-time thing because, obviously what he does is his day job is extremely stressful. So super cool. I mean, it's awesome. I love seeing when people create stuff in their passion, follow their passions to create content and things that people can enjoy. It's
Absolutely.
so inspirational.
It reminds me of 3 guys that I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're sitting right here.
Oh, wow. But it is like,
Yeah.
it is pretty inspiring to like see somebody who's succeeded and been
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, we can, we're doing this in our part time.
Mm-hmm. And exactly. I think if you have any kind of desire to create something in the fly fishing space and you want to spread the message of, protect the environment, be a good steward, be nice on the river, do it. Just go for it, Yeah. I think Joseph's a great testament to that.
Why wait?
He didn't know anything about creating magazine, literally not anything. And he has 2 now that are across, North America, all online. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, that gave me a lot of faith, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I was like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you eventually learn.
You do. You
Exactly.
do. If you want to. You work at it, and that's it. Well, it was a great show.
So, I'm going to shamelessly plug ourselves.
Yeah.
We're in the January issue of Tail Magazine.
Yeah.
It's all about our trip down to Mexico. The photos are all from our good buddy Joel. It was his birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Joel.
Happy birthday, Joel.
Happy birthday.
Hope you're living it up
Joel.
out west.
Joel actually was the guy who made the connection to Tail.
Yes,
thank you for
Joel,
us. So thank
for
you for
introducing
that.
us.
Yeah, so he introduced us to Joseph because Joel is also in Strung Magazine. He has an article in about a trip he took in the Yukon fishing for grayling with some buddies. And those photos are beautiful, just as beautiful as the ones.
Check them out.
Check 'em out.
And check out the Tulum article written by Aldo. Yilma's on the casting away in the
Yeah,
photos.
Yilma, you're like, it's a 2-page spread, like,
It's
to
a
introduce
TPS,
the
yeah.
article. Like, then it's just you, baby.
Absolutely.
So
I mean,
cool.
You're like fly fishing, like, man.
fly fishing man.
Fly fishing man.
The FMs. Well, I give it to Joel. If it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have looked so good.
Yeah.
True that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's it from me, Mitch. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we hope that you really enjoyed the show. Aldo?
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you.
Yilma?
I'm going to finish my 40 Creek and say goodbye.
Cheers, brother.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to have one more after this? Let's have one more. Stick around and have one more.
I don't want the public to know. But yeah, okay, fine.
Let's stick around and have one more, and we'll do a little talking.
One more little cup of pot still.
Maybe smoke a cigar.
Oh,
Ooh, baby. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
I don't want to go outside, so we might as well have another drink.
Let's just wait it out.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for listening, and take care.
You can find all of SoFly's content at SoFly.ca. On Instagram, we're at the SoFly Crew. You can reach us at thesoflycrew@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or concerns. On Facebook, we're SoFly, and our podcast is available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify.